Welcome to Reading Academy, LPS.
That's right.
Class 1.
So welcome to Module 1 specifically, and today we are going to be giving you a welcome to the Summer Reading Academy logistics and kind of a preview of what's to come. So I've just shared my screen, and so let's start with some introduction, shall we? My name is Dane Hewling. I'm the English and Reading teacher and literacy coordinator at LPS Hayward. Erica, who are you?
Well, my name is Erica Fischler. I am a history teacher background, turned reading specialist and reading teacher at LPS Oakland, and teacher coach.
Great. So, Erica, you want to talk about this next part?
Yeah. So I think a good place to start would just be to see if any of these statements resonate. Do you recognize these students?
Students who are not beginning readers, but also don't identify as readers.
Students that have limited exposure to rigorous academic texts in the past.
Students who rarely spend time reading outside of school.
And when presented with reading in class, they would much prefer alternate ways to get this information.
Students who express little confidence when facing a new rigorous academic text.
And have difficulty readily connecting or relating to the things they read in school texts.
Students who often demonstrate low comprehension of what they do read.
And as a result of all this, are often not asked to do or not held accountable for much reading.
Well, what we're doing here in this course is we're taking those trends that we're noticing and we're also going to put them in the larger context. I personally recognize a lot of the trends on that previous slide as students coming into my classroom. And it turns out that there are really large national trends that show that this is a common experience in a lot of American schools. So we're going to take a moment to look at some national trends.
Yeah. So looking at this trend, we can see that 2/3 of high school students are unable to read and comprehend complex academic materials, thinking critically, synthesizing, summarizing, and communicating clearly what they've learned. 2/3.
By some estimates, half of incoming ninth graders in a typical high poverty urban high school actually come in reading 2 or 3 years below grade level.
And because of this, these students are unable to handle this quantity and complexity of assigned reading in college.
For those of you who have taken our workshops in the past fall, you might recognize some of this data from the LPS network. And so 46% of LPS incoming freshmen are 3 or more years behind in reading. We also see that across all 3 sites, there is at least 33 or 31% of students 3 or more years behind. So that's a significant number. That means a ninth grader, at 6th grade reading level. And so, when we talk about students struggling to, interact with rigorous grade level texts, the data seem to tease out that understanding where students are coming from, helps to explain that experience.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of sets the background for why reading apprenticeship. What are we doing here? Reading apprenticeship is a framework. It's a paradigm for subject area teaching of literacy skills. And so what that means is it's not like a set of 10 strategies. It's a way to think about bringing texts into our practice to meet this need. All the things that you'll be able to read and experience in this course and take with you into your practice are research-backed and asset-based approaches built with students in mind of all reading levels according to these national trends, but especially for the students that we do see in front of us. So this is a curriculum with our students in mind. So here's a little example. This is a teacher, Lilit Harian, and she is a community college teacher who is feeling empowered by these same reading apprenticeship frameworks and processes to help her students even at the college level. So maybe you'll resonate a little bit with what she has seen as benefits in her classroom.
What are you thinking? She's looking over your shoulder and you're not communicating. Let's do it together, okay? So tell her what you're thinking.
So
We'll go ahead and turn on the captions for us.
going off by what you said, you can't, like not using this R, the only other equation would be Z.
The reading apprenticeship framework changed me as an instructor, and that was the biggest surprise, that my identity as an instructor has changed through this. Traditionally, I would go to the board and do my stuff, explain them passionately and be happy about like physics is so wonderful, and look at the student and say, you got it right, guys. And they would look at me and I would imagine they got it, but did I really know what they were learning, what I was teaching? Was that really the case? So framework, the magic of the framework actually made me realize that I have to do something different so my teaching and their learning are a little bit in phase together. Are we really transmitters of the information, or we are the facilitators of the learners? So when we find our true identity in a classroom, the role, what is our role, then according to that we can adjust. So adjustment is always hard and time consuming and requires lots of effort. So it's very important to have people, a community around you that can support you with that.
Dane, what does that video bring out for you?
It speaks to me a lot about the role of an instructor when it comes to reading instruction. I think something that Lilith talked a lot about was how many teachers think that from the front of the classroom, there's kind of a direct instructional approach to all of reading or building reading skills. But what she was bringing out was kind of this more workshop mentality of facilitating student exploration and guiding students in their own question asking, which is something obviously she's picked up through working with a reading apprenticeship. And it's something that I can resonate with personally, is that, someone told me a long time ago, some of the best teachers are the ones who speak the least and who have the most kind of student led conversations. And so one thing I was hearing from her testimonial was how reading apprenticeship kind of pushes a lot of the thinking onto the students with very strategic supports for teachers to jump in and provide their own expertise.
Yeah, I definitely heard that too. I also liked that she was saying how changing your perspective of yourself as an instructor is a time-consuming thing. It takes effort, but that this framework is helping her go places, and her students go places that they weren't going before. So it's like a high return investment to make. Mm-hmm. So what is this framework? This infographic is something we can study more in depth, but it pretty much shows the 4 dimensions that are critical to the reading apprenticeship framework: the social dimension, the personal dimension, and cognitive and knowledge building, and this metacognitive component that connects them all.
So I'm not sure if people all know this, but reading apprenticeship and specifically the concepts inside of Reading for Understanding, our primary text for this course, this is actually the backbone of the LPS reading team. So at all 3 sites, Hayward, Oakland, and Richmond, there is in some form or fashion a reading support course. And at each of those sites, we try to apply these principles to kind of frame and guide our students who come in 3 or more grade levels below, or whatever the threshold is for the reading support course. So this is actually something that's already been implemented at LPS for a number of years to various degrees. And part of our initiative this summer with this course is to kind of expand beyond the reading team some of these principles, because they are designed to be universally applicable for Spanish teachers, history teachers, art teachers, math teachers. Any teacher can use these concepts, and so we didn't want to be greedy and keep it all to ourselves. So we've actually already collected some interesting feedback. What I did here is I collected some data from fall 2019 to spring 2020. Now, keep in mind, this is the year of COVID-19 pandemic year, but we still were able to collect some data on our reading apprenticeship students on things like, do you think you are a good reader? And so you'll notice in fall of 2019, students coming into the course, incoming freshmen, this is a 9th grade data set, coming in fall 2019, 44% of students who came into that reading course, they explicitly said that no, they do not think they are a good reader. And compare that to the spring, just one school year later after being in reading apprenticeship, that number dramatically decreased. You can see that many more students identified as saying it depends or yes. Now, actually, it depends is probably the most appropriate answer. I think Erica might, you probably agree with that. Some students, when students say yes, they might be overestimating their ability. So seeing this expansion from no into it depends actually might reflect more self-awareness of where students are at and kind of the nuances of reading instruction.
Right.
This data set we collected this past year also talks about whether students think reading will be important for their futures. And again, from the reading course, 88% of students came into the course believing so, with 12% believing that it was not important. Compare that to the end of the school year, even with distance learning, that number increased up to 96% of students.
Can I say something about this one too?
Sure.
To me too, like a lot of these 9th graders coming in, even far below grade level, are already invested in the idea of reading. That might not be the perception that many teachers have, but to me, this speaks of if we can tap into this, if we can bring students into this process of self-knowing and growing their skills, then they will buy in. They already think it's important. How do we bring that in to our class in a way that's empowering and helpful in helping them be a conversation participant in that process?
That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. And the last piece of data that we collected was whether students ever read at home other than for their school assignments. So this is reading for pleasure, reading for joy, reading a book off of the shelf. And so in fall 2019, from the cohort that came into our course, 56% of students said that, outside of schoolwork, they'll pick up a book. Compare that to the end of the school year, 75% of those students. And these are students who historically have had potentially a toxic relationship with reading, or students who have not necessarily connected with reading in the past because it's been a difficult process. Perhaps they haven't had the positive association that some of us might have with reading. Just it's a feedback loop. And so a lot of our students for a long time have had negative feedback loops with reading. But over the course of this 1 year, it raised almost 20% in terms of students who kind of made a positive connection and therefore seek out reading on their own. So that's a big deal just for students' continuous development outside of our course.
Absolutely.
So all of this together is kind of informing the reason why we've chosen Reading Apprenticeship as our anchor for this course and for our program. And so the course that you're taking this summer, the Reading Academy, is kind of a primer on a lot of the primary foundational concepts. And so in the next part of our presentation, we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about kind of how will we work together in this training to explore some of these reading apprenticeship concepts.
Definitely. So we are going to be in kind of like a hybrid format, but we wanted to surface just briefly here that we want to follow the same sort of collaborative professional development norms that we would in a face-to-face PD. So we want everyone to be engaged, pose questions, assume best intentions, and participate in that online community considerations that may need special attention when we're talking more through typing. So just keep that in mind that we're all here together to help and learn from each other. We're going to be coming together in a meeting format in Zoom at strategic points. These points will be July 8th from 10 to 11, July 14th from 10 to 11, and July 31st from 10 to 11. Our first and last sessions are the most important, I guess you would say, or those are the times where we think it's most beneficial. So if you had to prioritize, but the mid date is also very recommended. These are times to kind of get that face-to-face contact that we know is important to some people. We'll have 4 weekly modules starting today. That's 4 weeks till the end of July. And within those modules, you will be able to work at your own pace through the week. And then for the sessions that are live, there will be some things to do like before that, especially the July 14th. So just keep that in mind. Like depending on the week, you might want to make sure certain things are prepared by those live session dates and times.
So we wanted to give a preview in this opening session about the kinds of tools we'll be using in this course. So first and foremost, each week we'll be having weekly readings, which are ultimately out of the hard copy of Reading for Understanding. As I mentioned in a previous email, if you are interested in this hard copy, this exact book, there are some copies available at the home office. So if you contact me, we'll be able to coordinate that together. It's also available as a PDF, chapter by chapter, linked within the Canvas course. And Erica also let me know that there's an ebook that can be downloaded chapter by chapter, slightly adapted if people are more Kindle readers.
Yeah, if you want to use the ebook, I've been looking at it this week myself. It is a nice ebook that's searchable by chapter and highlightable and all that stuff. So if you purchase that on your own and would like to be reimbursed, you can also help. You can also request that, and we can help you with that.
Great. So we're also going to be having some video lectures. Shorter than this, our video lectures are between 7 to 10 minutes long, just to kind of encapsulate big concepts as we go. And we'll also be looking at a variety of classroom samples in this summer course, authentic reading apprenticeship classrooms, not LPS classrooms, but we'll be mixing in LPS artifacts along the way to show how a lot of these concepts are mirrored in our current practice. So I'm excited about all the video lectures and samples we'll be looking at. As far as actually responding and kind of the two-way conversation of this course, there will be a number of different platforms that we use to model different platforms you might be able to use in your own distance learning or reading apprenticeship classroom in general. You will be posting occasionally on Canvas directly, things like discussion boards. You will also be using third-party kind of platforms such as Padlet, which is kind of a digital bulletin board. And I'm very excited to say we'll be using Flipgrid, which is a short video production kind of app and website that allows you to produce short response videos. We've had great success in distance learning having students use this platform, so we are going to experiment with it ourselves this summer.
Here we have, like, for example, a module for week 2. You can see we've inserted some headers that will be consistent, like warm up, learn, classroom focus, practice. But our assignments are designated by the different kinds of icons. So the one that looks like a quote box would be your class discussion. The one that's just a page might have just text and like things that you need to look at, like links, or might send you to a Google form to submit it there or something like that. And then the one at the bottom with the pencil is actually, that's your assignment. That's your assignment icon. So you kind of have the icons, but of course, if you click into them, there'll be much more detail about what that component comprises. And we've organized our Canvas module to have, several hours, 2 to 3 hours, sometimes maybe 1.5 hours per week of work to do that is divided between these tasks. If you did open the first one, for example, my reader history, you'd be able to click on to the next thing by just using the arrows at the bottom. So they do operate as a book. If you start at the top, you can click through and see all the pages and assignments starting on the first one or whatever one you start on. You can move forward and back by just opening and using the arrows at the bottom as well.
So as Erica had mentioned, for the rest of the week, we are going to be having an intro session on Wednesday. We are going to be having some reading that we're going to do, foundational readings from chapters 1 and 2. You would click on this Learn assignment to figure out the exact pages and excerpts to be reading. And for our kind of interactive part of the course, in addition to taking notes on the reading, we are going to be doing a personal inquiry question to close out Module 1. That's this week. So I think we are at the point where we are going to launch into Module 1. Erica, I'll just say I'm grateful for all of us in Module 1 to be launching together. I'm excited to talk to everybody on Wednesday. Anything to add, Erica, before we sign off?
Just really thank you all for taking time this summer to think about reading and think about how we can support reading in our very unique context with more distance learning. So really appreciate you guys all for signing up, and we're so thankful and excited to be able to share this information in this kind of also unique way. And so we hope you have a great experience, and we're excited to see you all in person on Wednesday the 8th, which will probably be tomorrow.
Okay. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday. And if we don't see you on Wednesday, we'll see you soon in one of the other modules. All right. Bye, everybody. Have fun.
Have a great day.